And so is the Mark of the Beast system already in place, ready for activation? I think first we'll have to talk about what that is. But at a high level answer, it's going to be yes. But I think it's been ready to go for a long time. And as time goes by, how it will look might evolve a little bit. But when we talk about Mark of the Beast system, I think there's two parts to it. One is, what is the Mark of the Beast looking like? So how can you tell if someone has the Mark of the Beast or not? And then there's the other part of, how do you, like, maybe how do you control the buying and selling? And let's read about these verses that we're talking about. So Revelation 13:16, it says, um, this is referring to the beast that comes out of the earth. There's two beasts in Revelation 13. There's the beast of the sea, and then there's the beast of the earth. And the beast of the earth, the one that looks like a lamb but speaks like a dragon, says he's the one that causes both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads. Revelation 13 says, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So what is this mark of the beast or the name of the beast or the number of the beast? And what about like the making it so they cannot buy or sell? For me, I think I'm seeing many things are very troubling in when it comes to right now the ability to foreclose someone for being able to buy and sell. Like, all of us who follow the news should be very troubled when we look at it. Think, for example, what happened a couple of years ago with the Canadian truckers who were boycotting what was going on, some of the requirements that were put in place by the Canadian government. And the Canadian government looked at, like, who are all these protesters, and then told the banks to shut down their accounts. So wiping out their ability to get money, use money instantly, just gone. Poof. And we're seeing all the time more and more pushes to create like social credit scores. And even American banks were targeting unpopular groups like gun manufacturers, um, white hate groups, things like whites who they're saying were hating other races, I should say, things like that. I don't want to name them just in case it ends the video and YouTube won't share it on the algorithm. But targeting people who, like, most of us will say, okay, fine, let's hate on those groups. That's fine. Those are terrible people. But what happens is when we let things like this happen with groups that we don't care about, eventually we'll find these laws being applied to us when we're trying to do what's good and right, but maybe the world doesn't want us to do what God wants us to do. So the question becomes now, what is, and I should add one more thing too. If you're not aware of it, there's a big push amongst the banks of the different countries. So like we have the Federal Reserve here in the US, and then the Federal Reserve equivalents in other countries are all right now talking about creating their own like bitcoins, their cryptocurrencies that then could replace cash, replace, the dollar, things like that. And we would all be on crypto. We'd be on blockchain. So that would make it very easy for them to track your transactions. If not, who knows what they could do, they even keep you from being able to transact, given the nature of how blockchain works. So that is very troublesome when it comes to enforcing buy and sell. It means it would be very impossible for people to get out of it. Oh, hey, Billiam says CBDCs. That's sort of the acronym for the central bank digital currencies that they're talking about doing. Now, maybe we could talk really quickly about what is the mark of the beast, and is that system for marking people in place and ready to go. And this is something where I think Tina, Wendy, and we would all agree that there's a lot of people who are misidentifying what that is. They're thinking in very modern terms of what it might be. Of course, while I'm here, talking about very modern terms of what the buying and selling might look like, but that's a very practical thing. The mark of the beast, the name of the beast, the number of his name. If you're study the Bible, these are terms that show up again and again in the Bible and have a very particular meaning. The name of the beast. And the name of someone tells you their character, their personality, what they are like. So when we talk about the name of God, it's not just, oh, did it pronounce it perfectly? No, it's like his character and it's how he is. So much goes with the name. So when it says someone has his name, it means there's someone who's like the beast. So if you have the name of the beast in you, you're acting like this beast. You're being oppressive like the beast is being oppressive, as opposed to what we were talking about, how God wants his people to be loving. The beast and his people are oppressive. When it comes to what is the number of his name, I don't know. I have never heard of a good explanation for that one. Um,
I feel like that number, I feel like we're gonna learn it more as it becomes more clear in time. That
I
if that
agree.
makes sense.
I think it's one of those things like we won't understand it until the very, very end when it's right in front of us. So it's more than just, it's not just having like 666 stamped on your head like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, numbers in the Bible, tend to have a symbol. Like the Book of Revelation, there's a lot of sevens, which is a number of completion. It's it's a godly number. Like if there was to be a number associated with God, like seven is one of his numbers in a sense. Like God likes the number seven. You see it throughout, the Bible in a lot of ways.
Whereas 6 is associated with man. Man was created on Friday, the 6th day. And what's interesting too is Babylon. Babylon is this.
Yeah, everything in Babylon
So
falls on the
the
number
Bible
six.
is very much, a common theme is Babylon, and Revelation is all about Babylon. And Babylon is all about 66666. Like there.
Exactly. It's almost like, and when there's like three of something, it's like in this is established, like in the midst of two or three witnesses, so shall the thing be established. So it's almost like this is an established thing of a man-made system, where it's not from God. Like if it was God, it'd be like 777. This is an earthly thing, a worldly thing, and we are not called to love the world. We're called to love our Father in heaven, first and foremost. And so it's more like it's like when you say the number of his name, it's again, it goes along with that character of it's a worldly character. It's not, one that would rather, obey man and be able to buy and sell rather than obey God, whatever the cost.
Yeah,
And so,
and Babylon is kind of the symbol of rebellion in the
oh
Bible. If
yeah,
we go all the way back even to
hmm
Babylon, because Babylon is kind of where the rebellion, well, it goes back to Nimrod, but Nimrod founded Babel, and Babel then sort of really rebelled against God, and that's when God scattered the nations. Some people say divorced the nations, and then he had to start from scratch with Abraham and create then the children of Israel. So. So like Billiam is saying things, the number may be reordering of our DNA. Then reference it, and then someone lists 1 Kings 10:14. Could you look up 1 Kings 10:14, maybe Tina? See if
yeah, I'll do that right now.
could just that point. So I don't think it's reordering our DNA. The Bible is for mostly concerned about spiritual things, and God really cares most about what's going on in our heart. And so we were talking about like so people might either have the mark of the beast, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. These are probably going to be spiritual things. So like name of the beast is the character of the beast.
Can I really quick, since you're saying the
Yeah.
numbers, this is interesting. I've actually never seen this before. I've never, for whatever reason, never came across it. That's a really good point. Our friend, Always Hope, that says 1 Kings 10:14. It says, now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 603 score and 6 talents of gold. So it's almost like a financial thing. You know what I mean? Again, like worldly, you know what I mean? Symbolically, it's just basically like riches, the deceitfulness of riches in a way. I would almost want to paint it as that. It's not something from not something God says, store your treasure in heaven. Like, and this is more of an earthly thing. This is more, greed and again, the nature of the beast, which is worldly, selfish.
It's interesting that King Nebuchadnezzar, didn't he build a golden statue of
Yeah,
himself?
exactly.
And the dimensions of that statue, if you read in the Bible, it's like 60 by 6 by.
Yeah, it's 60 by 6 feet wide. And what's also interesting, if you've ever noticed this in the book of Daniel, chapter 3, talking about, the call was to worship this thing, which goes very much along with, this beast of Revelation 13. It's a matter of worship. It says, those, and the Bible saying this throughout the book of Revelation, don't worship the beast. Those who did not worship the beast, who are saved, and those who do worship the beast, who are lost. And in Daniel chapter 3, talking about worship of this image, and basically it says they were supposed to listen. It says, there were 6 instruments, the sackbut, psaltery, harp, dulcimer. There's 6 instruments, and it lists those 6 instruments 3 times in the book of Daniel chapter 3. And there's one time where they go, well, it lists them a 4th time, and you see, no, it only lists 5 of them. But all 6 of those instruments that are listed to worship the false image is listed 3 times. So again, it has something to do with, this worship, this false system of worship, the worship of the world, things that are going to be destroyed, something that's going to fall away. And we know in Daniel chapter 2 that God was trying to tell this king, like, hey, you're this head of gold on this image, but eventually all these kingdoms are going to pass away. And it's just, again, this false system of like, no, we're going to establish a kingdom here. Like, everybody better get in line. And God is saying, well, you know what? It's all going to melt. It's all going to pass away. Put your trust in something heavenly that's going to be eternal. And it's really the 2 sides. And I feel like sometimes we get distracted by all these technologies and things like this. We think it's a microchip, or we think it's a barcode, or these things have changed throughout the years. And I feel like we get a little bit distracted when we miss the point of, we need to have our hearts right with God. And that's really and truly the essence of true worship, is that we love God supremely. And it's love to God that causes us to be ready for his kingdom. And and when we love the world, just like God says, love not the world nor the things that are in it. For, those who love the world do not have the love of the Father. And we're going to miss out of our heavenly kingdom if we choose to love this world more than we love God. So anyways.
Yeah. And so maybe we go back to, like, what is the mark of the beast, just to quickly wrap up even what that is. If we're not looking for barcodes, we're not looking for really advanced tech, we're looking for something spiritual. And we can better understand what the mark of the beast is when we understand what is the mark of God. What is the seal of God? And the Revelation does this a lot, or even throughout the whole Bible. You almost always have these polarities. You have these dichotomies, almost like for every Jedi, there's a Sith. If you have for every yin, there's a yang. And so what is that in the Bible? So mark of the beast, we have the seal of God.
Yeah, because, sorry, just to add to that, it's like God has a true and Satan has a counterfeit. And so God's true seal is the seal we need to be focusing on. And this mark of the beast is, Satan's counterfeit, in essence.
Exactly. So if we go to, oh man, how these verses, and I don't know why they're acting weird now. I'll go here. Okay, so for example, so there is a thing called the sign. There's a sign God has that he uses for people, and it's the same word sign could also be used as mark. If we look at Exodus 31, verse 13, it says, speak also to the children of Israel, saying, surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations. Then we could go forward to Ezekiel 20, verse 12. He says, moreover, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between them and me, that they might know that I am the Lord who sanctifies them. Ezekiel 20:20 says, hallow my Sabbaths, and they will be a sign between me and you, that you may know that I am the Lord your God. So again, a sign, it's a sign. And what's interesting too is God says, he told the Israelites to seal up the law, to put little pieces of the law and wear it on their forehead and I think wear around their hand, something like that, right, Tina? I couldn't find that verse. But he talks about hand and forehead. And even there's Jews to this day who put those things on their hands and forehead, and they take it very literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they would put like an actual, like those Pharisees, they would actually have like the law or things, like wearing them like literally. And God's going, It's not, that's not going to
But
save you.
it's like, okay, yeah, maybe God said do it literally too, but there's a point. God doesn't just have us do pointless actions just to go through doing the ritual to do the action.
Exactly.
There's a deeper spiritual truth, and
Exactly.
it's
Just like
symbolizing God.
baptism.
God wants the law to be in our mind, to for us to be mindful of it, meditating on it, like it says in
Mhm.
the Psalms. And then God wants us to be applying it, to that put it on our hands means like act on it too. So act
Mhm.
on the law, think on the law, that it, internalize the law. That's what we need to do. And the fourth commandment is remember Sabbath day and keep it holy. So if God's sign, God's mark is people are keeping his Sabbath because they love God
On
and
the
they want to
seventh day.
honor the day he made holy. The law didn't make the Sabbath holy, by the way, because that happened in Genesis 1. God, we talked about earlier, what is holiness? Holiness is just declaring something is separate and apart from everything else. You can have something, everything's profane and common, and then there's something that's set apart and not like the others. And that's what God did on these, or for the seventh day. So God,
Mhm.
remember that Sabbath day. Keep that 7-day holy because I made it holy. It's
Mhm.
special to me. I want it to be special to you. If you love me, you'll treat it special like how I want to treat it special. Like
Mhm.
how, our wedding anniversary is really special to Wendy. And it would be extremely offensive to Wendy to say, hey, I don't think that's a special day. Right. So
That's true.
yeah, so that's the Sabbath. That is the Sabbath. That's a sign of our love, our covenant relationship with God. And what might it be then for a beast? What might the beast do then? We're told in Daniel about a power that will think to change times and laws.
Mhm.
And there's only one law that actually involves times. And that would be the fourth commandment, the one to keep Sabbath.
Mhm.
And we know most of Christianity right now, unfortunately, is not keeping Sabbath, they're keeping Sunday, a different day. And there's some churches that are quite proud of being responsible for changing the day. And maybe I shouldn't say church is. There's probably one church that, first and foremost, claims takes credit for that change. So what if in the future, perhaps even in the very near future, there's a huge radical resurgence of the right? Like conservatism could it be for reasons like wokeness and a lot of stuff that we're seeing going on in the world right now, polarizing the right, and they go so far as to take over governments and then deciding like, hey, we really need to go further. We need to institute God's law everywhere. And then they start instituting even Sabbath worship and forcing the world to worship on Sunday. And as we see in Revelation, there's progression to the point where they say first, hey, okay, if you're not going to worship on Sunday or you're not going to rest on Sunday, do whatever on Sunday, then we are going to cut you off from being able to buy and sell. So that's what we would say is going to be the mark of the beast. We could potentially not be far from that happening, right? It's going to be interesting to see what even happens in this upcoming election. That's that's how I would understand what the mark of the beast could be. Is what's going to be the opposite of God's Sabbath, and the essence, even if it might not be enforcing Sunday worship, the essence here is the beast is defined by being oppressive, by forcing people to worship not as God wants people to worship, but as the beast wants to be worshipped. And
Mhm.
so when people have the mark of the beast on their hand or on the forehead, it's because either on the forehead they bought into the lie and they're happy to internalize it and go along with it, or those who just have it on their hands, they're just acting it out. They totally might disagree with it, but say, well, I don't want to die. I don't want to be cut off from the economy, and then we'll just go along with it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, they're just participants, which is sad. Because either way you're lost. But
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like one is more like, that leadership of leading the lost sheep or the lost the lost fold, and then you're just a sheeple, following
Yeah.
in the path of
And
destruction.
and
So
then who is this beast power that enforces it? We said it was a beast that looks like a lamb, speaks like a dragon. It has two horns. Uh, it takes us a little while to explain, but I would say this beast, according to what the Bible gives us, showed up around 1788, around that time. So late 1700s. It's defined by two horns. Horns represent powers. So there's like a separation of powers that defines this kingdom that arises in the late 1700s that looks like a lamb. So maybe it starts off looking like a Christian nation, but then in the way that it actually acts, speaks, makes its laws, it actually is more like Satan, being a country of oppression. So I leave it for you to think about, is there a country that has the power to globally enforce the mark of the beast that started off a Christian nation around the late 1700s, is defined by separation of powers?